So you might be thinking that you're watching a rerun of a previous episode, but you're not, because there's a subliminal message in this episode today. I was reading an article about subliminal messaging, and I'm delighted to have my guest along today to help me, the wonderful Diane Danzebrink, here to talk about the Make Menopause Matter campaign. It's a blatant re-messaging of this brilliant campaign. We need 9,633 signatures. That's all we need. And we're here to ask you for those signatures. For anybody who may not know who I am, my name's Samantha King. I've got the wonderful Diane Danzebrink here. I'm a workplace menopause consultant. I go in and talk to businesses about why it is so important to keep women in work and people in all stages of menopause. But let the expert that is Diane tell you a little bit more about her campaign and why we just need a few more signatures. Over to you, Diane.
Hello, lovely. Thank you very much for inviting me back. So for those of you who have never heard of the campaign, as Samantha said, and is beautifully demonstrating, it is the Make Menopause Matter campaign. I launched it in October 2018. And the reason that I launched it is because my own horrible experience of surgical menopause a few years before made me start to research and wonder if other people out there were struggling. And what I found out very quickly is that there were hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of women on the planet who were struggling. And so, having spoken to many, many thousands of them, it was very clear that there were some key issues going on. And those key issues were, and to some extent still are, I can't get the right help and support from my GP when I go to see them. I am not being supported in the workplace when I mention menopause. Why did nobody teach me about this? And why is there not more public information out there about menopause? So that's really what decided the aims of the campaign. And the aims are to have mandatory menopause training for all GPs and medical students, to have menopause guidance and awareness and support in every workplace, whether you're a multinational or you employ one person, to have menopause included on what's called the PSHE curriculum for schools. So within the school system, it might be referred to as RSE, but the curriculum itself is the PSHE curriculum. And for us to have a public menopause health campaign, so similar to campaigns that we might see about getting up and moving your body or not smoking, etc. They're all great, but of course, menopause directly happens to half the population, but it indirectly will affect the other half, whether you're a partner, a friend, a family member, a colleague. So I'm delighted to say that since I launched it in October 2018 in Westminster, we have ensured, thanks to all of the lovely people who have signed and shared the campaign and raised their voices in support of the aims, we've been able to ensure that menopause has been added to the school curriculum in England. It actually went live in September 2020, which was dreadful timing for the poor teachers because they were all trying to make sure that their pupils could learn from home in the middle of COVID. So it will take a while to filter through, but the important thing is it's there in black and white on the curriculum. So it is a learning outcome, essentially. And we've also been instrumental in ensuring that menopause will now be taught to every medical student from 2024. So we're part of the way there. There's some fabulous initiatives going on in the workplace. I speak to Samantha a lot about the work that she does. I will often speak to employers. We know that there's lots of other people doing similar work. So there's loads of good work going on. But it's really important that that awareness, guidance, and support is there across the board for everybody. As far as the public health campaign is concerned, I've certainly been in meetings in Westminster where it has been mentioned. These things seem to take forever to come to fruition, but the fact that menopause and the idea of a public health campaign has been mentioned is very positive. So we're definitely part of the way there, but the next aim, as far as the campaign is concerned, is to reach 200,000 signatures. And as Amantha said, we're less than 10,000 from that, which is amazing. So if you haven't signed it yet, as Amantha said, you know, we would love you to sign the campaign, but also to share it. So share it with your friends, with your family, on your social media platforms, whether that's LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc., etc. This is the very thing that the lovely Amantha is demonstrating for us there. You can find the campaign via the Menopause Support website, which is menopausesupport.co.uk. You can also find it directly via the Change platform. So yeah, that's really what we're looking for, is for essentially, if you've ever mentioned the word menopause, if you think that menopause is important, if menopause is something that will happen to you or somebody you know or love, then this does matter to you. So please do get involved, raise your voice, join everybody else who's done the same, and let's ensure that together we will be the generation who make menopause matter for everybody, not just for now, but for the future too.
Exactly. Bravo. Exactly. And that's how I said to you the other day, it's in all my workplace menopause presentations. Everyone gets a badge who comes to my presentation, and they have to move this to sit down on their seat. So we can't really move for making menopause matter. And it is so important because it's very, very easy, isn't it, Diane, to sit here now as we are, you know, sort of really championing this, but actually it's in those really difficult times that this would have been really helpful. I know, certainly to me, and it's the reason that you started it up. And there's not a week that doesn't go by. I just had a call with someone less than half an hour ago who not only was unsure about menopause, but other things, because there's more than one road that leads us to menopause. And so we don't know when that's going to appear for us. There is no crystal ball.
No.
So actually, in a time where we may be feeling like we don't have much power, we might be feeling a bit disenfranchised, we might be feeling we're on the margins of change, but we can't really evoke change. That's not true. More than 180,000 people have signed this. 190,000 people actually have signed it already. So we just need this little last push, and this will be one of the excuse me, most signed petitions on change.org. It actually says that there. So what I'm going to do to make it even more simple for you is I'm going to put the link at the bottom of this video. I'm going to put the link under wherever we post it on socials. That'll be Instagram, that'll be LinkedIn. If you go to the www.menopausesupport.co.uk website, there is so much information again there. That's on my resources, because it's fabulous. It's got something there for partners, it's got letters and resources that help you navigate this time, but we can only do it with more support. And that leads me on to a very nice part 2, which Diane has very kindly agreed to share with us also, because there is something lacking in this space, Diane, isn't there? What's lacking, and what are you going to do about it?
There is, lovely. There is definitely a significant lack of good quality, or any quality, but good quality is what we're looking for. Good quality research in so many areas of the menopause space, whether that is for natural menopause, whether that is for early menopause, whether that's for premature ovarian insufficiency, whether it's for surgical menopause, etc., etc. I could go on, but I won't. we are desperately in need of that quality research, not just for our patients, but also for our medical health professionals. And as everybody knows, good quality research it's costly. It costs a lot of time, it costs a lot of effort. It often needs quite a lot of people to be involved. So it's a costly thing to do. And, you know, sort of, I don't know how many of your viewers or listeners will be aware, but it's not until the early 90s, until 1993, that females were actually included in medical research as a matter of law, if you like. So, you know, we're talking that's that 30 years ago, 93, no, yeah, and 30 years ago, it's nothing. So women's health has pretty much been ignored and very poorly served historically, and we won't go into that because that's a whole other vlog. But it has, and that has resulted in really menopause having very little focus. So we need that, but we also need education for our healthcare professionals, because as you and I have discussed many times, and as I've said publicly many times, the lack of education for our medical health professionals around menopause and in many areas of women's health doesn't just do a huge disservice to the end user, to the member of the public, the patient. It also does an enormous disservice to our medical health professionals, because if you don't equip those individuals with the information that they need, they actually can't do the job that they have trained to do. So it's a ridiculous situation. Some of you will be familiar with a couple of the names that I'm going to mention. Lovely lady called Fiona, who runs something called Harley Street Emporium, and the lovely Vikram Talalika, who is a gynecologist and a menopause specialist. And this is very much Fiona's idea, but she has asked Vikram and myself to collaborate with her to launch the Menopause Research and Education Fund. And essentially, it's going to do hopefully going to do what it says on the tin. The Menopause Research and Education Fund is very much about having a charitable platform where we can raise funds to fund that vitally important research, but also to provide that vitally important education to those medical health professionals. So they're our kind of two key aims with this. Now, obviously, it takes a community. As with menopause support, it takes a community to help us to support other people. The same is true of the new charity. And it is really going to be about people looking to whether or not they feel that what we want to achieve is important. And if they do, hopefully digging deep and saying, we want to raise our voices behind you, but we want to raise our voices with funding. You know, we really do want to get behind this. We believe this is something that should have happened a long time ago. And this platform is something that we want to support. We want to see that research going ahead. So Fiona launched it officially on Sunday with a lovely video that she did explaining it. Her and I will be doing an Instagram live together to talk about it, but there will be much more about it coming soon. But initially, the first thing that we need to even register formally as a charity is to reach the target of £5,000. So brilliantly, since Sunday, Fiona tells me today that we've already had donations of £1,000, which is fantastic. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. So, you know, if we can increase that, then we can register, and then we can really start to motor as far as sort of reaching out to other people, to organizations who might be interested, looking at the funding potentially for this research and education. So yeah, it's I think for me, kind of the two things, menopause support, that very much that sort of community support side of it, but also the education and research via the charity. They're things for me that sit very well together and are equally important.
Definitely, definitely. And I would concur that, because for me, the bit of the puzzle that's still missing for me is, I've got histamine intolerance, and I see so many women whose allergies, sensitivities, are made worse by perimenopause, but also then exacerbated by any HRT. So I would love to see some research in that sector. And I've spoken with Vikram about that. And this is the sort of thing he's saying to me. These are the sorts of things that actually, yes, we do need to have them explored through robust, clinical, randomized, controlled trials, all of that, gold standard trialing. And we know that, there are industries that are doing that night and day. So actually it is about that. And it would be remiss of us not to mention all those really fantastic grassroots supporters that have got behind your campaign, Diane, and as their own campaigns. And I do have found this. I've not been on Instagram very long. I'm a newbie. But I've been on LinkedIn since 2012. But what I do know is that it's a very supportive community. When one person's having a difficult time, everybody else rallies around. And I find that to be a wonderful, wonderful place to be. So I'm here to say that, lots of grassroots supporters are delighted at this news. I saw lots of interaction on Sunday when that video went out. It was like, yes, this is amazing. But now we need the action. We actually need people to sort of be stepping forward. So I know it's a big ask. We're basically asking for a tick, and we're asking for some money. That's what we're asking for today. We're asking for you to commit your name to the Make Menopause Matter campaign, because it does matter. I would not be here if it wasn't for people like Diane putting resources out. I wouldn't be able to sit in work as I currently am. I certainly couldn't have been in work a decade ago. So anyone who knows me, I always talk very passionately about this. It's about what can we do? It's not enough just to come to a presentation at work. It's about what can you do going forward. So we've got a lot of work to do. Still a long way to go, but not with this campaign. So we just need just under 10,000 people to sign it. Keep supporting us, keep wearing your badges with pride, keep making menopause matter, because like Diane said, if you're even mentioning it at work, thinking about it yourselves, then you can make a change. And yes, we need to get this charity up and running. So the Menopause Research Education Fund, what's the website address, Diane?
Good question, lovely. I'm going to say,
is it mref.uk?
I'm going to say MREF. I don't know if it's, because I've been following it so closely on Instagram.
I will put it on the notes, but
there definitely is one.
Yes, it's so at Instagram you can follow at mref.uk, and I think it is mref.uk. I just looked on Instagram, so there's a link there. So www.mref.uk. And like Diane says, it does what it says on the tin. So if anyone's got any questions or anything like that, obviously please put them in the comments, put them in the chat. But it's as simple as that. We wanted to keep it short and sweet, and hopefully you've got the message subliminally or otherwise that Diane's generation will be the generation, this generation, to make menopause matter. So thank you for your time, Diane.
Thank you for inviting me, lovely.
Oh no, my pleasure. Any parting, I mean, this is quite a big, significant bit of change since I last interviewed you. So what's your hope for the next 12 months, would you say? I mean, if you were to crystal ball it, what would you say you'd want in the next 12 months?
Yeah, so I would like to see that we have, so I would love to see that we have those 200,000 signatures. Hopefully, I would like to see that by October this year. That's my target, is for October this year. I would like to see these mutterings about a public health campaign for menopause actually transpire into solidify into something. So it might not actually be out there, but actually for plans to be put in place and funding, because that's the other thing, you know, in terms of national funding, this is a drop in the ocean. You know, sort of to have a national campaign for menopause is a drop in the ocean, but it would be so valuable. You know, you can't count the amount of advantages and benefits that having that campaign out there and educating everybody would have. So I'd really like to see that. I would love to see the charity, the research charity. I would love to see us be able to formally register later this year, and, you know, kind of kick on to greater things, basically. You know, for me, I'm quite impatient, so within 12 months I'd actually like to see that first piece of education work or research actually starting. I think that's enough, lovely. I think that's enough in 12 months.
I think that's a brilliant checklist. So that's what we'll do, and maybe get you back once things are more solidified to see how things are going.
Once we've got our 200,000 signatures.
Once we've got our 200,000, that will be a great time for cause for celebration. But as always, Diane, thanks for all that you're doing and continue to do, and thanks to everyone who gets behind Diane's campaign. And for everything that everyone's doing individually, because it all matters. So
absolutely, community is everything, lovely.
Definitely. And there's too many of them to name check all of them, but you all know who you are, the Grassroots Supporters. We love you, and we love all the work that you do. So thank you, Diane, and we'll be in touch. Thanks for your time.
Pleasure, lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.